In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a front control arm on your Buick Enclave. This will be located behind the front wheel. Let's get started. Using a 22mm socket, remove the 6 lug nuts. Remove the wheel. Using a 24mm socket, remove the front nut for the control arm. Using a 21mm wrench, we're going to remove the ball joint nut. Remove the nut. Using a large pry bar and a hook, we're going to pull down on the ball joint and separate it from the knuckle. Using an 18mm wrench for the nut, we're going to use an 18mm socket for the bolt. We're going to remove this rear bolt. Remove the nut. We're going to just loosen this front bolt. Using a 21mm socket and a 21mm wrench, loosen and remove the nut from the rear bushing on the control arm. Remove the nut. Using a pair of locking pliers, we're going to hold the back of the sway bar link and remove the nut. Using an 18mm socket, remove the nut. Pull the sway bar link out. I'm going to leave my locking pliers on it for reassembly. Try not to pull it against the ABS wire too much. Using a jack, we're going to push up on the sway bar. Just enough that we can get our bolt out. We're going to push on the front of the bolt, pop it out. Using a pry bar, we're going to tap the back of the head. Remove the bolt. Remove the rear bushing out of the bracket for the front control arm. Twist slightly forward. Remove the control arm. Put a light coating of grease onto the front spindle. This will just help it slide into the front control arm bushing. Remove the nut on the ball joint. Remove the case. Install the control arm into the front control arm bushing. Give it a little wiggle, it should slide right in. Push the rear bushing into the bracket. Get our pull jack back into position. Go up on the sway bar. Install the bolt. Remove the jack from the sway bar. Install the nut. Install the ball joint into the knuckle. Get the nut started. Using a 21mm socket, snug down the ball joint nut. If you find that the shaft of the ball joint is spinning, put a jack up under the ball joint, push up, and it'll lock it into the knuckle. You won't have to hold the stud as you tighten. If you're using a ratcheting box end wrench, every few turns be sure that you're able to get it out from in between the axle and the ball joint stud. The nut tight, we're going to remove the jack. Install the bolt for the front control arm bushing. You may need to give the bushing a tap to help line up the bolt. Get the nut started. Snug down the bolt. Snug down the front one. Install the nut for the front of the control arm. Torque the ball joint to 30 foot-pounds and then an additional 90 degrees. If you can't get a torque wrench on it, do the best you can. Torque the control arm bushing bolts to 55 foot-pounds. We're going to use a pull jack to put the suspension in a loaded state so we're able to torque the control arm down. If you can't get a jack under the control arm to load it, you can put the tire on and put the vehicle on the ground. Snug down the bolt and torque it to 144 foot-pounds. Snug down the rear bolt. Torque the rear bolt to 111 foot-pounds. Install the sway bar link. Get the nut started. Snug it down. Torque the sway bar link nut to 55 foot-pounds. Be sure when you do this, the stud does not spin. If you have a jack, go ahead and remove it now. Install the wheel. Get the lug nuts started. Snug down the lug nuts. Torque the wheels to 140 foot-pounds in a star pattern. Once you're done with this job, take your car to a local shop and have them do an alignment.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.